You're listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast brought to you by DraftKings. Sorry, a slight technical glitch right there. That's my fault. But I am Mike Luke, joined by Brody Dryden. And as always, DraftKings got a great deal going on. You throw down $5, and you know what? On an NFL game, you win, you get a $200 free play. Brody's about money. I'm about money. So you know what? Hop on, be like us. So, all right, Mr. Dryden, we've got a couple cool things to talk about today, but we're also going to be discussing, some moves in Brody Dryden's life. But that's called a teaser, and we'll get to that in the third segment. So, first and foremost, let's kind of rehash a little bit of the Arizona-Washington game. You're heavily involved, obviously, in the pregame show with IMG, doing some specials. What are kind of just on the ground, what are kind of just the vibes around everything that's going on? Is it that it's competitive? They're competitive. They're going to get there. Where exactly are we right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly competitive right now, Mike. And in those first three quarters, we saw Arizona was finally kind of leading. The unfortunate thing is that you watch the team and they are competitive, and it seems like so strong, and everything's going well for about three quarters or maybe a little bit more or something, and then. Jed Fish has talked about it week after week. The team just needs to learn how to finish, learn how to get over that kind of mental hump of, just not letting it happen again, where everything goes wrong by the end of the game, because Washington took advantage after that interception. I would say that after this game, there were a ton more positives than, we watched the Colorado game. You were there, Mike, and that was just from start to finish, basically. I mean, Arizona did hold them to 6 points in the first half, but it was just ugly there. And I feel like for, in a relative perspective, this was sort of a bounce back performance for Arizona. Their defense played really solid, holding Washington to only 21 points after letting up 34 against Colorado. Stevie Rocker obviously had his chance to shine with a great game. Jaylen John continues to chip away. And I think also for Will Plummer in the game, I thought, stats wise, not too impressive. It was 62 yards, 2 interceptions. But for a lot of the game, I thought they kind of, they didn't try doing too much. We've seen that earlier in the season with Gunnar Cruz and Will Plummer. It seemed like the staff kind of had the quarterbacks doing stuff that they weren't comfortable with, or that they just didn't have in their game. But I thought they kind of had Will Plummer in a good kind of controlled state, doing what he needed to do. There were just a couple mental mistakes there in the stretch.
All right. So, yes, I agree with all that. One thing that we do need to talk about, Brody, is that Don Brown is a beast. Like, the job that he has done with the defense coming over from Michigan has been incredibly impressive for me. This is a unit that is not a great unit by any means, but it's also a team that, you look at it and they're kind of middle of the conference or middle of the road in the pack. And going into the year, I mean, I didn't expect a Rose Bowl. You didn't expect a Rose Bowl. I just wanted to see improvement on both sides of the ball. And Don Brown has come in, and from a defensive perspective, outside of the San Diego State game, Arizona's had a chance to win almost every game, and a lot of that has been off the backbone of that defense.
Yeah, exactly. The defense has kept Arizona in these games, and even though Wildcats lost against Washington, holding that team again to just 21 points, we've seen things get a lot worse for Arizona throughout the season. So that's the thing. Don Brown has held up his end of the deal. It's just time for Arizona's offense to figure things out, because as much as, offense and defense, different sides of the ball, totally different things, they really rely on one another. And I think that was just something that didn't help in the Colorado game at all, was that, Don Brown's defense, that, they were playing well and they held Colorado as much as they could. But when they saw the other side of the ball just doing, really giving them no support, things just kind of blew up from there. And I feel like you can't really blame them.
Yeah, all right, let's get to Andre Varus. He says, good morning. I say Arizona doesn't win a game the rest of the year. They're not, oh, look at you, Debbie Downer. They're not beating SC, Utah, at Wazoo, or ASU. Maybe they beat Cal, but they won't be able to move the ball against Cal. So, question here. Where do you think most likely it is that Arizona's able to sneak a victory there?
It's a tough question, Mike, because you
Our
don't
listeners
know.
bring tough questions, Brody. That's when you hop on here. You know what? You're going to be hopping on the gauntlet.
Yeah, you're right. I should have expected it, Mike. I think Cal is the one that you circle. I think USC, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but the line is like 21 points. USC is favored,
Mm-hmm.
and it is hard going to the Coliseum and everything. But the one nice thing, Arizona has so many Los Angeles and Southern California players on their roster, so their families are going to be there. It's almost kind of a homecoming of sort for a lot of guys there. So I think that gives a little bit of an extra boost. And how Arizona's played tough teams, like Oregon, it seems like they kind of play to their competition in a way. But Oregon, we saw Washington last week. I could see Arizona covering that 21-point spread. But Cal for a win, Cal is the one you circle because it is homecoming. It's a noon kickoff. Cal is the best chance, or other than Colorado, the other worst team that Arizona is going to be facing. So it is going to be tough for them to move the ball. I think there is a lot of positivity, and I like the creativity and willingness of Jed Fish to put Jamari Joyner in that wildcat position and change the offense up because they just had to, and instead of being more stuck in his way about things. I like the way that they're getting more creative and finding ways. So I think that there could be a way, if they continue on that trend, maybe put that wildcat formation into more use, because I think they should, by the Cal game, and have it all figured out. That could be the win.
Brody, great people think alike, and you and my guy Bob, who I've never met before. Bob has been a longtime supporter, first at the radio, now here at the podcast. And Bob, first of all, Bob recognized me at Safeway the other day, and I was quite flattered. Bob also says, you know what? He's a fan of what Brody Dryden has to say, because he said, feed running back Jaylen John and feed him. I agree with you. And Brody, you talked about that in the first, earlier on. John's got, not that the other running backs don't. The running back game really hasn't been the problem, but John has been effective for them, and he's got a little bit of that next level kind of wiggle to him that I think a lot of people maybe haven't seen from some of the other backs, Brody.
Yeah, exactly. And he's a guy that you see it, because it's no secret Arizona's offensive line isn't the best we've seen over the past few years, but and I feel like somehow Jaylen John still makes it work on those runs right up the middle that other guys, like Michael Wiley, who came into the game, or into the season, as kind of running back option number one, hadn't been able to do. He's also run into some injury issues, but I feel like Jaylen John, and we saw Stevie Rocker against Washington as well in a couple instances, just make something out of nothing, which is a really important trait, because again, I don't mean to get on the offensive line too much, but with this offensive line, you're not going to just get a ton of free open holes with a ton of opportunity there. So yeah, well, I agree with Bob too. Feed Jaylen John as much as possible.
Brody, you got to play it middle of the road. And we're going to give you a reason that Brody's got to play it middle of the road coming forward. Again, a tease. One thing I do want to tell you, though, about is DraftKings right here. DraftKings, here's my pick of the week. And, well, I'm excited here, so I'll get the promo out of the way first. You put down $5, you get and any NFL game, you get back $200 in free plays. You just got to bet $5 and win your NFL game. It's that simple. DraftKings also allows me to have my pick of the week. My way to be able to back the A here. My version of backing the A, my pick of the week is Arizona USC has an over-under of 56.5. I like way under there. Brody, you're going to be doing some pregame segments for before the game, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Sure. You know what? What is your feel about? You're on the ground. You're in the trenches. What do you feel? I don't feel that Arizona can score enough points, and I don't think USC is good enough to score 56. There's my DraftKings pick of the week. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate, because Arizona's defense isn't that good motion right now, and I think they've got enough momentum. And the tough thing is, this is maybe the most talented offense that they've faced, and especially their receiver corps. With Drake London,
Mhm.
he's going to be the best receiver they face all year. And one thing we saw last game, hopefully Arizona has Gunnar Maldonado back. He should be back. And so hopefully the coverages will be a little bit better. But that's one thing all season long we've seen. Don Brown is Dr. Blitz. So everyone, the pressure is there on the quarterback, but then it kind of leaves the secondary and the cornerbacks a little bit more vulnerable. So I'm curious to see how Arizona's defense can stand up. And that's the thing. It might be a good first half. We've seen a good 3 quarters from Arizona's defense, but they're going to need that support from the offensive side of the ball. And I don't know. Either way, though, I do agree with you. It could get close, but I think that's a pretty solid bet to make.
All right. One thing that you do need to remember, if you do have a gambling issue, this is call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit, $1 wager required. Eligibility restrictions do apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And the cool thing about PHNX is we've got guys like Brody Dryden coming on here on a weekly basis. And again, Brody's definitely a guy that when I first met, I could tell he was going places. And you know what? Again, it's an honor to have you on here, big dog. And guys like Brody, Jay Dobbins, got good dudes coming on here all the time. So make sure to check out the podcast. Look at AZ Wildcats. Go to Go PHNX. All right, let's get back to Bob, my Safeway friend. This offense really reminds me of Arizona football 2006 Mike Canales, Chris Henry running right into the lineman for a gain of 2. Brody, in 2006, how old were you?
I was 7.
Okay, so you probably don't remember a ton of that then. You probably weren't.
I do have a Chris Henry jersey rookie card. I think he was a Titan.
Oh, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do have that. So I don't necessarily remember him on the U of A, but I do have that.
My Chris Henry story that I got for you is that I had just turned 21 and I ran into him downtown, and he was at the he was drafted by the Titans at that point. And I asked him, I said, Chris, why aren't you playing? You're not putting up any numbers. He got very, very mad at me. And I realized at that point not to talk that way to people that are much bigger than you. So, Chris, if you're out there listening, which I'm sure you are, you know what? We appreciate you. All right. Arizona SC, like you said, the point spread has kind of fluctuated between 19 to 20, 21, depending on where you look. You should be on DraftKings Sportsbook. I mean, that's really the only place. But what does success look like for in this game here? I think that I think Bob's been very annoyed by the offense. My question is this. After watching, though, Gunnar Cruz and Will Plummer, and again, I get it, Brody doesn't want to get too far into the weeds on this. I get that. But I can. The quarterback play just hasn't been what you generally need. I mean, Will Plummer was 16 to 22 for 62 yards. That's going to be tough to win games, and I don't know what a guy like a Jed Fish is supposed to do there.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard because Will Plummer started out as kind of the number 2 option or co-starting quarterback in the beginning of the season and dropped down to 3rd string. When we heard from him at media availability before this Washington game, I do like where Will Plummer's head is at, though. You know, he talked about, I mean, the quote that's been kind of shared everywhere is him saying that the NAU game was the worst night of his life. And,
right.
You know, he kind of talked about going through film and seeing his mistakes and recognizing what he needs to do and stuff. And I like that at the very least. You know, he kind of knows that he has a lot to improve on. It seems like in the Washington game too, we did see a little bit more of a humbled Will Plummer than we've seen before. He kind of understands his assignment. He's encouraging when, you know, he has to go in the receiver slot or something, and Jamari Joyner is lining up under center. He's kind of more aware and kind of knows what he has to do. He's the last scholarship quarterback on the roster. So I still have, while it hasn't been a winning formula yet for the situation that Arizona's in, I don't think I can necessarily blame Will Plummer for where he's at, because he's just doing his best. And I think there's still some room to improve. And I think that's what we could see from the USC.
Wait a second, Brody.
Yeah.
You think that
Yeah.
there's room to improve in the quarterback situation?
Well, yeah, and just for there's obviously room to improve, and I think that Will Plummer will improve. And I think it's kind of primed. Arizona's goal right now, break the losing streak, and I think um, we saw glimpses of what a successful Arizona team, what a winning Arizona team can look like under these pretty bad circumstances for this year against Washington. And USC might not be the week, but it could be a tough challenge and kind of a good appetizer for that Cal game.
Tasty, tasty. All right, Bob's got another question for you. This is a little bit more up Mr. Dryden's alley. Which offense was worse, Brody? 2016 Arizona or 2021 Arizona? I think 2016 is probably Brandon Dawkins.
Oh, Brandon Dawkins. That was tough. That's the one thing. I remember those Brandon Dawkins days I see a little bit of a parallel, unfortunately, with this year, where it was kind of those like short screen passes to the sideline that
a lot of horizontal passing.
A lot of horizontal passing. But I think Brandon Dawkins got a win. So I might have to say 2021 on that one, Bob.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to go. I know where Bob's leading right there. But at the end of the day, we're back in the A, and I think that's what matters here. So what do you, Brody, we're not going to have you back on before Arizona USC. Before we get to some women's hoops and a pretty cool announcement, what is your score prediction? Do you care to put one out there?
I'll put, I was on camp radio actually as a guest yesterday, and I had a score prediction, and I want to say it was similar. I think it was 28-17 USC is my final score.
28-17. Wow. So you look for a spirited effort out of the Cats.
Yeah. I think there's something there, and they'll cover. And I think that's what I'm going with. I'm locking that in, Mike.
All right, Scott Schlittenhart doesn't like the Bob question. He says Brandon Dawkins would kill this 2021 team. I tend to agree with it. The thing about Brandon, though, is Brandon did throw a lot of interceptions at not the most opportune times. So, but I'm going to go USC 29. I don't know how they're going to get 29. That's a very odd number for a football game. But, there's ways that they can do it. And I'm going to go Arizona 10. I look for an easy cover there, right there, Brody. That's what I'm telling you, though. Okay. Now, want to tell you a couple things first before we have a pretty exciting announcement on this show. And you know what? Brody's a humble guy, but you know what? Brody's going to have to put this out there. First and foremost, though, I want to talk to you about something else where you don't need to be humble about, and that's Manscaped. Now, we're in the year 2021, and it's okay to admit that, you know what, guys? We have to keep care of everything downstairs. That's where that's the moneymaker. And you know what? In 2021, there's no reason not to. Manscaped has you covered from all the tools, the lighting, the formulas. There's a reason that it's on and it's taken over. And you know what? There's a reason that it's here on the PHNX all over. Manscaped's where you want to go. One thing, though, that I do want to tell you about is you should get on there now. You get 20% off free shipping with the code word PHNX at manscaped.com. That's 20% off free shipping with the code word PHNX, manscaped.com. Keep everything down there tightly trimmed, fresh, whatever way you want to look at it. You know what? It's and tell them that PHNX sent you. All right. Now, on the AZ Wildcats podcast at Go PHNX, we try to have the best guests. And the guy, too, well, depends on how you're looking at it, either my left or my right, depending on, again, how you want to look at it. Mr. Dryden has he's got a pretty cool new career endeavor going on right here, Brody. Why don't you tell us mere mortals what's going on?
Yeah. So tonight at 6:00 is going to be the first broadcast of the U of A women's basketball season exhibition match against Eastern New Mexico, and I'm going to be behind the mic for the whole season, doing radio play-by-play for U of A women's basketball. So I'm super excited. Going to be a wild season, I'm sure. Hopefully, as successful, maybe even more than last year.
So you're expecting a national. Brody, They did go to the national championship game last year.
They
So
sure did. Well,
if
hey, Coach Barnes wants one more win at the end of the season, and I'm behind her. So I believe her, and we'll see what can happen.
okay, wow. So again, so you can check out Brody tonight. What time now? What time are you going to be signing on? I know that you're on a little bit before the game too.
Yeah, it'll be around 5:45, 5:50, somewhere in that range. So tune your radio dials to 1400 KTUC. Will be online as well. You can find all the information on the U of A women's basketball schedule.
All right, you're going to get to meet my guy Nate Rady too. Is a very cool, cool board op. Have you met Nate before?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I know Nate.
Nate's one of the most solid people you'll ever meet. So looking forward to that. And check out Brody. All right, Brody. Now that we have the official women's play-by-play analyst on there, let's talk a little bit about the women's team. Now, Ari McDonald obviously has moved on to the WNBA and is doing great things up there. And a lot of people are saying, well, Arizona's going to take a big jump back. I'm not an expert on this. I know that you got Sam Thomas. I know that you've got like a Shayna Pellenton. What should Arizona fans be looking for this year? What do they need to see for the Cats to be able to at least be good this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously I understand when the program loses their best player in its history, Ari McDonald, to the WNBA, you're going to see a little bit of a step back there, but it's really more of a question mark than anything because, of course, Adia Barnes has said that the team's going to be better this year, which is hard, a hard pill to swallow. But there is a possibility there because Coach Barnes has used the transfer portal to her advantage a lot. Taylor Chavez is on the watch list for being the best shooting guard in the country, and she's transferred from Oregon. That was a player that she's talked about. She tried to recruit Taylor Chavez. She's out of Surprise, Arizona. She was the Gatorade Player of the Year her senior year of high school and stuff. And, at the time when she was coming out of high school, she didn't really give Arizona a chance in recruiting. But now that Arizona has built itself into the program that it is, she's now transferred here. She'll probably be starting at the shooting guard position. So she's going to be a big difference maker. Coy Love, a transfer from Vanderbilt, who as a team didn't necessarily do a ton of amazing things, but Coy Love is going to be a huge difference maker there. And then you look at Araya Copeland, 4 years at Alabama, and she's on the record books for the Crimson Tide women's basketball program on a few things. And with the extra year due to COVID, she got to transfer here as a grad student, and she'll be suiting it up for Arizona. And the recruiting class as well. This is just going to be a totally different team. You saw Ari McDonald run the offense basically, and she was almost like an Allen Iverson. That was the comparison.
Mm-hmm.
You got from her, and Sam Thomas, Kate Reese were also there as well. But Adia Barnes said she's got 15 players that could be starting on any given program in the country, but they're all on this team. So it's going to be hard for her to be setting her rotation, see who gets more playing time and whatnot. But it really is going to be, a great team. And that's what tonight's about. It's an exhibition game. And we'll kind of see how things go, who performs well when it's actually game time, and see, how everything falls together.
All right, Brody. Well, let's look at, you got a fan group already forming here. We got KB Thiel. Can't wait. I'll be there tonight, but we'll definitely be listening to your calls when I don't go. Very cool. Very cool. And then we got Bob right here who says, I think this team has a chance to be a better team this year. Adia has recruited well to beat teams up in the post. Is this a team that could really be a problem down low for some squads there, Brody?
Oh yeah, for sure. That was one thing in the national championship game. Only losing by a point to Stanford. It was their third time playing this season, but you could tell, Stanford did have some size on them, and the post game was there a little bit more than Arizona. But Kate Reese having another year under her belt, she's come back. Samaje Smith, the tallest player on the team. She'll be back hopefully as a lockdown defender. And then the two new players I mentioned, Araya Copeland, transfer from Alabama. She's big experience. She'll be a really good post player. And then Aaronette Vonleh, calling her Nettie. She's one of the highest recruited
Nettie, I like Nettie.
Yeah, highest ranked recruits that Adia Barnes has been able to bring in. She's from Oregon. She's a true freshman. She's 6'3", and she looks like she'll be really solid. So there's a few post players down low that should be big difference makers, and I think it'll be improved down low for Arizona.
All right, Andre Varus says, I think Reese really needs to step up. Ari hit a lot of her issues, but it seemed like Reese really struggled in the tournament. The only thing that I could say to that is that Reese also was very young at that point, but you could see that she had a lot of tools to work with. Is she one, Brody, that you look to make a big jump this season?
Yeah, I think so. I think she is kind of a leader. We actually heard from her at the press conference yesterday as well after Adia Barnes, and she does seem like a real leader. And that was the other thing in the tournament. A lot of the post play and defending some of the bigger post players on other teams fell onto her, and now she has a little bit more support that there can be kind of a Twin Towers arrangement with either Araya Copeland or Aaronette Vonleh, and then Samaje Smith is there as well. So there's a lot more size overall that I think, instead of Kate Reese sometimes being the only post player on the court to defend whoever's out there for the other teams, it'll help a lot.
Okay, Brody, again, now that you've reached the big time, and I'm not even being facetious, I like hitting around a little bit, but this is incredibly cool news that you're going to be the play-by-play person for Arizona women's basketball. And again, love having you on here. You know what? You certainly add to the guest repertoire. And so can I still get you to come on a weekly basis, buddy?
Sure. You can count on it, Mike. Thank you.
All right. I appreciate that. We're going to be off tomorrow. I got to drive up to Phoenix to meet with some peeps, but we will be back Saturday with the post-game show, or as Bob would like to call it, the pre-post game show with myself and Anthony Gimino. Appreciate all of you out there, everybody tuning in. And we will talk with you Saturday. Be ready to bring those comments and those questions. Thanks again, guys. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.